boys and girls. My name is Auntie Lee. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to bake cookies. In the old days, when I was young that is, we didn't have any television. Can you believe that? Well, we didn't. And so I had to do a lot of things that you don't do for entertainment. My mother had a wonderful old German lady named Anna who helped her with the housekeeping and the baking. And I used to go down and watch Anna as she stirred up cakes and made pies and made dinner. And she'd tell me about what she did when she was young. And it was a lot of fun. And then, just as I learned from Anna by watching her, you can learn by watching me today. The first thing we have to know is that you have to have your hands nice and clean because you're going to be touching other people's food. So we make a nice soapy dishpan of water. That pan you can use for washing your utensils as you go along. One of the most important things that you learn today is that if you keep the kitchen nice and clean, the grown-ups in your family will be glad for you to have the fun of cooking. The cookie that we're going to do first today is a stir and drop sugar cookie. Before you start, be sure and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. In this recipe are 2 eggs, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 2/3 of a cup of vegetable oil, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1 teaspoon of grated lemon rind, 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You start off by breaking the eggs, and that's a lot of fun. Brack. And there it goes. Be sure you don't break it anywhere except over the bowl, because if you spill it, it's a terrible mess to clean up. And now we have to measure the sugar. And the measuring cups come in different sizes. 1 cup, 1/2 a cup, 1/3 of a cup, and 1/4 cup. And then you also have glass ones that have the measurements on the side. We'll put in 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And you can have it in your hand because with dry ingredients you can shake and get it just right. Stir that up. And it gets a little bit thick. The next thing is vegetable oil. I want to have the cup level on the counter so that we won't make a mistake. If you have it up in your hand, it can waver, either higher or lower, and then you'll get the wrong amount. And it's very important to have just exactly what the recipe calls for. Now we'll put the flavorings in. Now flavorings are the vanilla, and that smells good. 2 teaspoons. The teaspoons, there's a tablespoon, a teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, and 1/4 teaspoon. And I'm going to use this. 1, 2, and a lemon. And I'm going to grate the lemon on this, almost the smallest size of this grater. Have you seen a grater before? I need to have some paper to catch it. Now watch out for your knuckles because you can grate your knuckles just as well as you can grate the lemon. And you knock it off from the back, and it comes back on the paper. Now we can put this in the water, and if it doesn't harden on there, it's so easy to wash in the end. And take a teaspoon of that lemon rind. Two cups of flour is our next ingredient, and it needs to be sifted first. And the reason is that flour in the flour bin is heavy. So we put it through the sifter so it lightens up a little bit. And you put more than you really want. for the first sifting. See the air? It goes through a screen. And this is the one thing that you don't want to put in your water and wash, because just as in school, when you make paste out of flour and water, it would get all hard. Wouldn't be any good. I always use two paper plates for this, and I keep them right with my sifter, so that the first sifting can go on one, and we use a knife and level it off. One, two, and the rest of the flour put back into the flour bin, and the paper plate makes it easy. Before I sift that for the second time, we want to put the baking powder and salt in. And the baking powder has a little leveler on it, so you don't have to use a knife. You put in 1 and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Now salt, I want to tell you something about salt, and that is never measure it over the flour, because the salt is the one thing that you cook with that can ruin cookies. It's better to have too little salt than too much. Now it's getting in there, all the pieces of salt are mixed throughout the flour. You put about half of it in at a time, because a cloud of flour will come up in your face if you try to put too much. Put the rest in the end. It's hard. Got to be strong. But you want to get all the flour off from the bottom, and so it's evenly distributed through the whole thing. Now I'm going to take 2 spoons. You don't have to have any grease on your cookie sheet for these cookies. You just put them right out. And you know, because your hands are nice and clean, and you haven't put them in your mouth, you can use your finger for this, because sometimes your finger is a utensil. Just a spoonful. It goes right along. Now after you get all these out on the tray, the baking sheet, sometimes you'd like to have them a little decorated, not just plain cookies. And so you can put some nuts on some of them. Whole pieces or half pieces, doesn't make any difference. Or maybe you just have raisins. You put some raisins on. You can make faces if you want to. Or if you don't have either nuts or raisins, a little bit of sugar on top. And that's the whole thing. There you have the cookies. Now we'll put them in the oven and bake them for 8 minutes at 350 degrees. And I want to tell you something that's very, very important, and that is that you may not ever put a hot pan down on the surface of your counter, because that'll burn. You need to put it on a breadboard or on the top of the oven itself. Anyhow, here are the cookies, and we can put them on a plate and serve them at dinner tonight.